Hi, I'm Coach Hallis, and welcome to episode 20 of the Keeping It Real vlog. This is quarter two, week 9. We have just finished first semester. Happy holidays. We've made it to winter break. Now that we're on a balanced calendar here at Hopewell High School, we will have a 3-week break for the students, 2-week break for adults, unless you're coaching a winter sport like me, in which case you'll still be here pretty much every day. And then we will start the new semester. Quarter 3 will begin right after winter break. So last week we had our exhibition, and I talked about how that went, and all things considered, everything's great. There's another side of the coin that I want to talk about this week, and that is when I mentioned one of the great things about a public speaking exhibition or any kind of really authentically difficult, challenging thing for students is when they do something that they told themselves they couldn't do. And they have that experience of having accomplished that thing, or they do something they just didn't believe they could do, and then they've done it, is it forces them to consider, well, what else am I capable of? What else can I do that I didn't think I could? But there's a cost to that. They have to take that risk. They have to put themselves out there. They have to be willing to make that attempt. Anything that's of value like that doesn't come for free. And there are students who are not willing to pay that price. And what do we do about them? How do you deal with that? There were only 2 students on my roster who didn't ultimately give their speeches. First, talk about the 2 who didn't. So one had an extenuating circumstance of, I'll leave it to several personal things among her and her family that were beyond her control. And she did continue doing work remotely, but she just wasn't able to be in school. And we did remote work, and she did as much as she could on the writing piece, apart from physically being here and being able to deliver her speech. She is going to pass because she continued to do her best, and the circumstances are legitimate and beyond her control. The other student is a little bit more common of an issue that we have to think about, and I don't have the answers, unfortunately, but it is a problem. A young man that in his senior year of school has consistently struggled. I don't know if this is like personal, I don't know, mental health or emotional supports that need to be in place, but has struggled routinely throughout all of his secondary school career, according to him and his family. When I've reached out for contacts, he usually puts himself in a really bad situation, then tries to dig himself out of it, and puts himself in a bad situation, then tries to dig himself out of it. And we've had those conversations. He finished the first quarter with like a 20% because he just didn't do many of the things he was supposed to do for his primary project. And then the same thing happened this quarter, and he just didn't do it, didn't write it, put things off, made a half-hearted effort way too late into the process, and then just gave up and didn't attempt his speech. So he's averaging like a 25%, and he's decided to drop out and pursue his GED at some point, which is challenging. It's difficult from the teacher perspective when you're trying to do everything you can to repair whatever damage school or life up to that point has done. You want nothing more than for kids to want to be in school, for them to look forward to coming in and learning your content and being engaged. And when that doesn't happen, it's easy to feel like you failed. On some level, you have. You have to own that. You have to be responsible for that. You don't need to own all of it. I don't take complete responsibility for this pattern that had been established with the student before I ever met him, but it is my responsibility to do everything I can to break that trend. So it comes down to did you do everything that you could? And just like you wouldn't want to judge anybody, let alone your students, based on how they finished, let alone what they attempted, or what was their growth, what was their effort. So there's that. One student is going to fail this class out of 15. And I think it's kind of human nature. We focus on the one negative thing. You can have a day where 100 things go well, but one person cuts you off in traffic, or you have one negative interaction, and that's the thing that stands with you. So I want to try to mentally focus on the 14 who passed, the 13 of whom at some point gave their public speeches. And there were 2 of those 13 who did not do so the night of exhibition. So let's talk about those 2. They both had circumstances that came up, or one had something that came up and one had just another slew of issues that had been persistent. She's been struggling to attend school, having issues with anxiety, having all kinds of things that we're still trying to unpack. But we had a parent-teacher conference, parent, teacher, counselor, attendance officer, several people met with the student in my classroom, and her sister and her mother came, and we had a conference, which I think was beneficial. And she's been making more of an effort. She's been coming in. She's been trying to make up things in her other classes. She came to wrestling practice this week so that I could help her with an essay while coaching, and then stayed after that. And we worked on getting some things turned in for her other classes. And she showed enough effort, both of these students have, to justify some kind of makeup attempt. So on the good side of the coin of an exhibition, not only do students feel like they have accomplished something that they didn't think that they could, not only does that challenge them to ask themselves, what else can I do that I didn't think I could, but you then have the other side of the coin, or the other element of that, the other positive element of that is that they feel a sense of unity, like almost a fraternal connection to each other from having gone through this battle of, we all really didn't want to do this thing, but we did it together. We came together after school. We made this thing happen, and we're on the other side of it now. And the following days of school, those students, even if they weren't really close before, they have a closeness that they didn't have. The other side of the coin that I'm alluding to is the students who didn't do it. Now, even though they're in the same classroom, those students have kind of made themselves outcasts because everybody else stepped up to the plate and made it happen, and they're tight together, but you didn't show up. You're now other. So the best that we can do from a structural level is provide an opportunity to make up an exhibition. And how do you do that? Well, it's going to be difficult depending on what the exhibition is, but it's something that we have to think about. We have to think about what happens if on this night not everybody shows up and shows out. What do we do? In our case, the vice mayor was unable to attend the night of exhibition, and we had our principal, who happened to be there, step in as a judge. I reached out to the vice mayor, and he was very sorry that he couldn't make it, that something came up, and he was willing to come in last week, or this week, I guess, the week after exhibition, and serve on a panel with our for a makeup exhibition. So we had a makeup exhibition this week where just 2 students gave their public speeches to vice mayor, an assistant principal, and our family engagement liaison. So that happened, and these 2 students who were far behind put in the work. They put in rehearsal, they came in, and they got it done. And that helps on some level, especially since there are legitimate reasons for them to have not been there. But they're going to pass. They did what it took. They got through it. So I guess the lesson, the takeaway here is that you have to be willing to plan for if everything goes the way you want it to, but also willing to come up with alternatives. And you don't necessarily need to bring up those alternatives to the students before the exhibition. Like, hey, if you feel like it, you could just do it on another day. But when you are at that point, you gotta have some lifeboats. You have to have some other opportunities, especially if the students deserve them. So that's where we are. 15 students, 14 passed, and we'll be planning for third quarter during this break. So I'll talk to you then.